it's going to be hard to go from this kind of style, right, where you're the lecturer and you got a bunch of kids who are sitting in rows waiting for you, to a style like this, where you're actually less of the teacher of content and you're more just kind of being a facilitator. So what this module is going to do is take you from being a deliverer of content and more of a lecturer to a facilitator of learning. So rather than dictating from the front of a classroom, you're going to be on the side, being able to be a gentle guide, helping students through their projects in their different groups. Now, of course, in order to do that, it's going to take some structures that you're going to set up. But once you set up those structures, you're going to feel quite confident to lead that kind of learning, so students can really manage themselves. And get to this point of 2, the big shift that you're going to be able to make here is going from a step-by-step, first kids you do this, second you do this, third you do this, again, where they're waiting for you for those next steps. So rather than going here, which is waiting for the teacher, they're actually going to be able to move through a project at a pace that's comfortable for them. So waiting for a teacher and at their own pace. So how great would it be if you as a teacher could set up some systems to help students guide themselves through the project and be able to be that gentle guide on the side and support them through the process, rather than having to wait for you and having a step-by-step process. So we're going to look at those 2 different types of structures that you're going to set up through some virtual systems that you can set up, and also some things that you can do in class to help support your project groups. Hey folks, so we're going to get a little bit into project management, and before we give you some tips, some tools and strategies, some tricks of the trade for project-based learning, I want you to first observe what a project-based classroom looks like and the difference between a project-based classroom and a traditional class. So here is what's happening in a project-based scenario. And I want you to make some observations, okay? I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project, but first, pause the video, make some observations. What do you notice? And one of the first things you might see is that students are in small groups, so maybe that's an observation, okay? But pause the video, make at least 5 observations. Excellent. So we're back now, and I'm going to just run through a little bit of what you might have observed. So what you might have observed is that over here you see the teacher in the corner. And notice how she's just kind of observing. All the groups seem to be on tasks. You have a group here, a group here, a group here. What you might have also noticed is that they're all engaged in different tasks through this project. Okay, now if you zoom in a little bit more closely, you'll see that each task is related to the project. So for example, you have here, the students are designing in a 3D way what the cage or the environment habitat might look like for the animal. You have some students doing some research here on, well, what is it that bearded dragons tend to need? Because that was the actual class pet they were designing the cage for. Here is, well, what kind of materials might they like to play with? What materials are going to be safe? So this is a student here looking at different materials and different designs and putting that on a cardboard and trying to get some feedback in terms of what students like. And then over here you see them building the actual cage for the bearded dragon. So notice how there's all different tasks that students are engaged with. And a really well-run project-based classroom is like that. Yes, there's a lot going on, but students are very focused. They know what they're supposed to do. And so I wanted to show you that. And before we get into some of the strategies, dead easy strategies for project management and ensure that students know what they're supposed to do, we're going to look at project management from 4 different lenses. From the teacher lens, how does a teacher help to manage a project? Self lens, how do students be self-monitors of project-based experiences? Peer, from a peer lens, how do we have peers to help to manage projects? And finally, community. How can we get community involved? The school community and the community outside of the classroom to help with project management.